She is a witch, okay? I lost my mother the day you had her, and I lost my job because of her.
No, Gabriel. Gabriel, please. She is your daughter. You can't treat her this way for what she didn't do.
Look, woman, if you know what's good for you, you better carry that witch away from me before I do something stupid.
Gabriel almost destroyed his entire family because of a lie he believed for 17 years. And the painful part was that the people destroying his home were sitting beside him every day, pretending to love him. The night his daughter was born remained the darkest night of Gabriel's life, and no matter how many years passed, he never recovered from it emotionally. Rain had fallen heavily that evening as he rushed his pregnant wife, Esther, to the hospital, while his mother and younger sister, Rebecca, followed behind them in another car. Esther's labor became difficult immediately. Doctors moved in and out of the delivery room while Gabriel paced the corridor restlessly, praying under his breath and wiping sweat from his forehead. It took them a few years after their marriage to have a child. Esther has had many miscarriages, but this time around, she was in actual labor, and it was like a life and death situation for her. But that night, everything collapsed. Everything changed from good to worse. Because at the birth of his daughter, something terrible and sad had happened. Remember, Gabriel's younger sister had followed them to the hospital in a different car too, but with their mother who was rushed to the hospital. The doctor attending to their mother had come out with a heavy heart to announce to Gabriel and his sister that they had lost their mother, and before Gabriel could even process the information, another doctor emerged from the delivery room carrying a newborn baby girl wrapped in white cloth. Esther had given birth and survived, but his mother had died from a sickness that was not clear to everyone. Gabriel stood frozen, staring at the child while it rained heavily, and an old woman who would not mind her business said, "Some children, when giving birth to, they come with signs that shows that they are possessed, and these are some of the signs." Those words poisoned Gabriel's mind instantly. 6 months later, while still missing his mother and trying so hard to love his daughter, Gabriel received another devastating blow. The bank where he worked suspended him indefinitely over financial irregularities connected to missing funds. His entire world crashed. His mother, who was just about to start enjoying her son, was gone. His career ruined. Debts were piling up, and his newborn child he could barely look at without thinking about everything that has happened and is happening, thinking she's really possessed and is the cause of everything. When a man loses his good-paying job or a good-paying client, then he loses everything. And for Gabriel, that was the beginning of the hatred. At first, Esther thought her husband was simply grieving and reacting towards the losing of his job, so she remained patient. She was a full housewife at the beginning, just as her husband had wanted. But after several months now, she decided to work, so she got a job as an oil attendant in the new gas station in their area to support and sustain the family. She carried the baby alone, she played with her alone, sang for her at night, she cooked alone and cleaned alone, and even comforted Gabriel. But months passed and Gabriel became colder instead of better. He stopped carrying his daughter entirely. He rarely spoke to Esther unless necessary. He avoided sleeping beside her and eventually stopped touching her completely. When Esther tried discussing it gently one night, Gabriel simply turned away and told her he was not interested in bringing another strange child into the world. That sentence broke something inside Esther permanently. Years passed, but Gabriel never changed. Their daughter, Favor, grew up in a house where love felt conditional. Esther did everything possible to keep peace in the home because she had nowhere else to go. Her parents were dead. Her relatives had abandoned her after marriage, and the fear of if Gabriel threw her out, she and her daughter would suffer terribly. So Esther endured everything silently. Every morning, she woke up before everyone else. She cooked for the family, washed clothes by hand, cleaned the house, ironed Gabriel's shirts, and even served Rebecca whenever she visited. No matter how exhausted she became, she remained careful not to offend Gabriel because she feared he might finally chase her away one day. Gabriel changed completely after losing his job. Once cheerful and affectionate, he became harsh, suspicious, and emotionally distant. Every problem in his life somehow returned to Favor. If he failed a job interview, he blamed her. If he had nightmares, he blamed her. If money became scarce, he blamed her. Rebecca encouraged the madness constantly. Unlike Esther, Rebecca loved attention and drama. She inserted herself into every part of Gabriel's life after their mother's death, behaving almost like the woman of the house. She constantly filled Gabriel's ears with spiritual theories and stories about children born under dark circumstances. Brother, open your eyes, she would whisper. Nothing good entered your life after that child arrived though. Gabriel refused to pay Favor school fees because he believed why spend money on someone who is going to one day end his life. One day, one terrible but funny thing happened. Favor was now grown. She was in GSS 3, she was 15 years. She was walking out of the room when she saw Gabriel and Esther arguing. Esther was forcing Gabriel to pay the school fees because Esther has been the one paying. Gabriel said all sorts of things to Esther, insulted her, and even told her, "You have refused to leave this house since you gave birth to that rubbish. And eventually, she grew in this house. Oh no, allow. Just stay away from me, you and that witch." Favor heard that and came closer. "Daddy, why do you say hurtful things to me?" Esther held her back from going any further. Then Gabriel replied, "Look, I have no time for this, okay? I'm going for an important business deal that is going to help me bounce back. So you and your witch should not jinx it for me because I know if I talk to you people now, I will miss that contract." As he uttered that statement, his witch daughter said, "Amen." Gabriel went silent immediately, and in his head, it was like, "Who asked me to say that now?" And this witch has said, "Amen." And then he looked at Esther, and then Favor. Then he grabbed his coat and stormed out. On getting to the dealer's office, before he alighted from the cab, the security man already told him, "Oga, you just dey come. They don't give the contract to somebody else, so in fact, them go soon start to dey work." Gabriel almost fainted. He got home and was crying. He was crying like a baby. Esther was almost pushed to believe her daughter was possessed too. After that night, she saw Gabriel crying like a baby because of the contract he missed. Gabriel slowly became obsessed with deliverance and spiritual warfare. Different pastors and prophets started visiting the house regularly. One of the pastors he invited home brought 4 people along as prayer warriors, and they started praying and calling anointing and speaking in tongues. By the time they were done, as everybody's eyes were closed doing prayers, Favor's eyes weren't, and that was how she saw that one of the pastors was moving around and stealing everything in the house. By the time they were done, Gabriel insisted he wanted to give them transport fare, and that was how he started looking for his wallet too. Everyone started noticing phones are missing. Favor was just laughing as she sat down on the couch and pointed to the man and said, "He's a thief. Check under his clothes." And as they would, they found everything there. Before security came in, they already ran. Some pastors poured oil on the walls. Others claimed favor needed aggressive fasting and prayers. One prophet even insisted the child should not look directly into mirrors after midnight because evil spirits supposedly traveled through reflections. Different pastors and their patterns. Favor grew up terrified and confused. As a young girl, she had seen more pastors than she had seen Father Christmas. Sometimes she cried secretly at night, asking her mother why her father hated her. Esther always hugged her tightly and lied that Gabriel still loved her deep inside, but even she was beginning to lose hope. Meanwhile, Rebecca had her own dangerous plans. After completing NYSC, she returned home with a close friend named Gloria. Rebecca pretended Gloria simply needed temporary accommodation while searching for work in Lagos, but her true intention was obvious from the beginning. Gloria was beautiful, bold, and very flirty, and in fact, shamelessly interested in Gabriel. At first, Esther tried convincing herself she was imagining things. But soon, Gloria started behaving less like a guest and more like competition. She wore revealing clothes around the house. She laughed loudly at everything Gabriel said and deliberately interrupted private moments between husband and wife. Rebecca encouraged her openly. They cooked together occasionally while gossiping about Esther loudly enough for her to hear. Some women don't know when their time has passed. Rebecca would say while Gloria laughed. Esther endured the humiliation quietly. The painful part was that Esther still cooked for both of them every day. She washed Gloria's clothes alongside everyone else's and cleaned up after them because she was terrified of provoking Gabriel. Sometimes, after spending hours in the kitchen preparing food, she would watch Gabriel serve Gloria first while barely acknowledging her existence. One evening, Esther overheard Rebecca speaking privately with Gloria in the bedroom. "You just need to get pregnant for him," Rebecca whispered. "Once that happens, Esther will live on her own." Esther stood outside the door trembling. That night, she cried silently in the bathroom so nobody would hear her. Gabriel's emotional cruelty worsened over time. He completely stopped being intimate with Esther. Months turned to years without affection. Whenever Esther tried getting close to him, he became irritated or found excuses to leave the room. Unknown to Esther, Gabriel secretly believed another child with her might bring more disaster into his life. The loneliness nearly destroyed her emotionally. The only thing keeping Esther alive was her daughter, Favor. Despite the hostility around her, Favor grew into an intelligent and compassionate girl. She excelled academically and often came first in school. Teachers often admire her maturity and kindness, but still, Gabriel refused to pay her school fees because he saw spending on her as pointless. Several times, Favor was sent home from school because of unpaid fees. Esther began doing odd jobs whenever she wasn't working at the gas station for more money. One afternoon, Favor returned home crying after her classmates mocked her for being possessed. Rebecca had spread stories in church about strange spiritual incidents surrounding the child, and eventually rumors reached the school through parents. That evening, Favor sat quietly beside Esther and asked the question Esther had feared for years. "Mommy, am I evil?" Esther's heart shattered instantly. She pulled her daughter close and cried harder than she had cried in years. "No, my child, never." "Then why does daddy look at me like he regrets me?" Esther could not answer because deep down, She knew Gabriel truly did regret them. Everything became worse after Gloria started actively seducing Gabriel. She began entering his room carelessly, touching him unnecessarily, and openly challenging Esther's authority in the house. Rebecca constantly created situations to push them together. Sometimes, Esther returned from the market and found Gloria sitting dangerously close to Gabriel while watching the television. The humiliation became unbearable. Then one night, Esther accidentally saw something that broke her completely. She woke up around midnight to drink water and discovered Gloria leaving Gabriel's room quietly. Their eyes met briefly. Gloria smiled smugly before walking away. Esther felt her knees weaken completely. When Gabriel entered the bedroom later, Esther confronted him tearfully. Gabriel did not even deny it properly. Instead, he coldly informed her that he was tired of living under spiritual attacks and needed peace in his life. That statement crushed Esther beyond words. For days, she barely ate. She moved around the house like a shadow, while Rebecca and Gloria behaved victoriously. Even Favor noticed her mother's pain and became increasingly protective of her. What nobody knew was that Esther had been hiding two explosive secrets for years. Gabriel's mother had been diagnosed with severe heart disease long before her death. The old woman refused treatment because of fear and religious beliefs. Esther knew everything because she had accompanied her secretly to hospital appointments. And also, she made Esther promise never to tell her children she was dying because she did not want to break them or make Gabriel spend money over sickness when she knows he is just struggling. The second secret was even more dangerous. Gabriel never truly lost his job because of bad luck or spiritual attacks. Rebecca's boyfriend had secretly used Gabriel's credentials during fraudulent transactions at the bank. When investigations began, Gabriel became the easiest person to sacrifice. Rebecca knew the truth, but she simply chose silence to protect her boyfriend. Esther also remained silent because exposing the truth will destroy the family completely. But if Rebecca was sensible enough, would she be cruel to a woman who knows her secret that much? Well, let's just say Rebecca was 18, more than she should be loving and trying to keep her own secret. So while Gabriel spent years destroying his innocent daughter emotionally, the real betrayer sat beside him daily, pretending to care. But what happened afterwards? You would not be ready for it. One day, Gabriel traveled to Abuja after finally receiving hope about a major business contract. It was the first real opportunity he had received in years, and Rebecca immediately saw it as the beginning of Esther's final removal from the house. The moment Gabriel left, Rebecca and Gloria celebrated openly. Once this contract works out here, Rebecca said confidently, my brother won't need Esther anymore. He will finally have money, peace, and a better woman. Esther overheard the conversation from the kitchen while washing dishes silently. She said nothing, but that night, she cried herself to sleep. Unknown to everyone, Favor had overheard the conversation too. For the first time in her life, she realized that her mother was not just suffering emotionally. They were actually close to being thrown out completely. 3 days later, Gabriel called home sounding unusually excited. The contract meeting had gone well and he was returning to Lagos the following morning. Rebecca and Gloria were thrilled. Esther became terrified. That same night, Esther overheard Rebecca speaking on the phone privately to Gloria inside the sitting room. Once Gabriel returns, we will pressure him to send Esther away permanently. The man is already tired of her now. Esther stood frozen outside the door. Something inside her broke completely. For 17 years, she had endured humiliation, loneliness, betrayal, emotional abuse, and starvation of affection just to keep her daughter under a roof. She cooked for everybody, cleaned after everybody, washed Gloria's clothes despite knowing the woman wanted to sleep with her husband. And now they still want to throw her out like trash. That night, Esther quietly packed a small bag. She decided she would leave before Gabriel returned home to disgrace her completely. Very early the next morning, before sunrise, Esther woke Favor up and told her they were leaving. Favor was shocked. Mommy, where will we go? I don't know yet. Esther replied tearfully. But we can't stay where we are no longer wanted. They boarded a commercial bus heading towards Ibadan, where Esther hoped to stay temporarily with an old church friend. Hours into the journey, traffic suddenly built up along the expressway. Passengers began murmuring anxiously after hearing there had been a terrible accident ahead involving a luxurious bus and a fuel tanker. When Esther and Favor finally got down near the crowd out of curiosity, Favor froze instantly. She recognized Gabriel's travel bag lying near the damaged vehicle. Her heart nearly stopped. Mommy, she whispered shakily, that is Daddy's bag. Esther turned pale immediately. The bus Gabriel boarded from Abuja had crashed just minutes earlier while trying to avoid a tanker. Several passengers were injured badly, and smoke still rose from parts of the vehicle. People gathered around filming with their phones while some injured passengers cried for help. Then Favor heard somebody shout that one man was still trapped inside. Without thinking properly, she ran towards the wreckage. Esther screamed after her in panic. Favor squeezed through the damaged side of the bus and found Gabriel unconscious, trapped between bent metal seats with blood running down his forehead. For one brief second, she hesitated. This was the man who had rejected her all her life, the man who called her cursed, the man who never defended her, the man who made her mother suffer for 17 years. But despite everything, he was still her father. So she grabbed him desperately and screamed for help. Two other men finally rushed over to assist after seeing her struggle alone. Together, they dragged Gabriel out seconds before flames spread further through the vehicle. During the rescue, hot metal badly burned Favor's hands. By the time Gabriel regained consciousness in the hospital later that night, his body ached terribly. Esther sat quietly beside him while Favor rested asleep nearby with both hands heavily bandaged. Quickly, Gabriel asked what had happened. The doctor explained that if his daughter had not spotted him inside the wreckage and forced others to help, he would have died inside the bus. Gabriel slowly turned toward Favor. For several seconds, he simply stared at her. And suddenly, for the first time in 17 years, Gabriel truly saw the damage he had caused. After Gabriel returned from the hospital, the atmosphere inside the house changed slightly, but not enough to bring peace. Gabriel had become quieter after learning that Favor was the one who saved his life from the accident. For the first time in years, he stopped looking at his daughter with fear. He no longer shouted at her unnecessarily or called prophets into the house. Something inside him started breaking slowly, though himself did not fully understand it yet. But Rebecca refused to let things change. In her mind, Esther and Favor still needed to leave the house. Instead of calming down after Gabriel's accident, Rebecca became even more desperate. She noticed Gabriel had started softening towards Esther and Favor, and it irritated her deeply. So she increased the pressure. Almost every day, she praised Gloria openly in front of Gabriel. Look at how peaceful Gloria is. She would say loudly while Esther served food quietly. Some women bring peace into a man's life while others bring suffering. Sometimes she deliberately compared Esther and Gloria in front of visitors. Gloria knows how to care for a man properly. Not everybody was raised to be a good wife. Esther endured it silently at first. As always, she still cooked for everyone in the house. She still washed Rebecca's clothes. She washed Gloria's clothes too, even while knowing the woman wanted to replace her in her own marriage. Every morning, she cleaned the house quietly while Rebecca and Gloria laughed together in the sitting room, discussing makeup, weddings, and men. The humiliation became unbearable. Gabriel noticed Esther crying more often, but he still did not fully understand how badly she had been pushed emotionally over the years. Then one evening, Rebecca crossed the line completely. Gabriel had just returned from a hospital checkup and was resting in the sitting room when Rebecca walked in with Gloria dressed expensively beside her. Rebecca smiled confidently before speaking. Brother, you have suffered enough in this life. You need happiness now. Gloria has stood beside this family all this time. Everybody can already see she's the right woman for you. The entire room became silent. Esther froze in the dining area where she was serving food. Rebecca continued boldly. You deserve a fresh start, a peaceful home, not constant bad luck and sorrow. That sentence finally broke Esther completely. For 17 years, Esther had swallowed every insult. She endured every emotional starvation, humiliation, loneliness, betrayal, and rejection just to keep her daughter under a roof. She had stayed silent while another woman openly chased her husband inside her own home. But this time, something inside her snapped. Esther dropped the serving spoon violently onto the table. The sound shocked everybody. Rebecca paused. Gabriel looked up immediately. Esther's eyes were filled with tears, but her voice shook with a dangerous anger nobody had ever heard before. Bad luck? She repeated slowly. You are standing there talking about bad luck? Rebecca rolled her eyes carelessly. Yes, because since that child entered this family. Shut up! Esther screamed. Everybody froze. Even Gloria looked frightened. Tears of pain exploded from Esther at once. You poisoned this family! Esther shouted while crying uncontrollably. You destroyed your own brother's life and blamed my innocent child for it. Gabriel sat upright immediately. Rebecca's face changed. Esther, be careful what you are saying. Oh. No, Esther cried. I have kept quiet for too many years. Her entire body trembled emotionally. Your mother did not die because of favor. The room fell silent instantly. Gabriel stared at Esther in shock. Esther pointed angrily at Rebecca. Tell him the truth. Tell your brother your mother had heart disease long before that night. Rebecca's lips parted slightly. Gabriel stood up slowly. What is she talking about? Tears streamed heavily down Esther's face now. Your mother was sick, Gabriel, she cried. She hid it because she was afraid of surgery. I went to the hospital with her secretly several times before Favor was born. Gabriel looked completely stunned. No, yes. Esther shouted painfully. Your daughter did not kill your mother. Rebecca tried interrupting immediately. She is lying. But Esther was no longer afraid. And tell him what your boyfriend did at the bank. Gabriel turned sharply toward Rebecca. The color drained from her face instantly. Esther laughed bitterly through tears. Yes, let's finally speak the truth today. Rebecca began shaking her head quickly. Esther, stop. No, we are not stopping. Esther screamed again. For years, you watched this man destroy his wife and child because of lies. Gabriel's breathing became heavy now. What bank issue? He asked slowly. Esther looked directly into his eyes. Rebecca's boyfriend used your bank credentials during those fraudulent transactions. Gabriel froze completely. The room became dead quiet. Esther continued crying while speaking. He was the one stealing money from the bank. Rebecca found out later and hid it because she did not want her boyfriend arrested. Gabriel looked at Rebecca with horror. Tell me she's lying. Rebecca could not speak. For several seconds, nobody moved. Then Gabriel realized something very terrifying. The silence was the confession. He staggered backward slowly and sat down heavily. Everything inside his head started collapsing at once. His mother's death, his lost career, 17 years of hatred towards his daughter, his destroyed marriage, the emotional torture Esther suffered, the childhood favor lost, all because he believed lies. Gabriel suddenly looked at Favor, who stood silently near the doorway, trembling with tears in her eyes. For the first time in his life, he truly saw the depth of the pain inside his daughter. Not fear, not evil, pain. Years of rejection, years of trying to earn love from a father who had already condemned her before she even learned to speak. Gabriel covered his face and broke down completely. Not quiet tears, the kind of painful tears that comes from realizing you have ruined the very things that mattered most. Rebecca started crying too, trying to defend herself desperately. I was trying to protect the family. Protect who? Gabriel shouted angrily for the first time. You destroyed my family. Rebecca fell to her knees sobbing. Gabriel pointed towards the door with trembling hands. Leave this house. Brother, please, leave. Even Gloria quickly moved away from Rebecca in fear. That night, Gabriel cried alone until morning. For the first time in 17 years, he mourned his mother properly, not with anger or superstition, but with truth. And for the first time in 17 years, Esther finally slept without carrying the weight of silence alone. It was on a Sunday morning in church. Gabriel and his family had gone to worship, and after the service, the pastor asked to see them. Brother Gabriel, the pastor said, I got a revelation from God Almighty. Your daughter is not possessed. He said calmly, that child is highly gifted emotionally and spiritually, and when properly taken care of and nurtured, she would grow up to be a great woman. Gabriel remained silent. The pastor continued softly. She's one of those rare people whose words carry unusual weight because her heart is sincere. When she speaks hope deeply, people feel it. When she prays genuinely, lives are touched. But gifts without love become painful burdens. Esther started crying immediately. For years, they had treated favor like darkness when she had actually carried light all along. That conversation changed everything inside Gabriel permanently. He tried slowly to get back into his daughter's life because 17 years of absence wasn't just going to disappear in one night. Favor was forgiving and she forgave him. She said she wants to study hard and become a doctor so she can help with her rare gifts to save lives. Gabriel could not be more prouder and he promised to be there. Esther forgave him too because she still loved her husband, who they have been through thick and thin. And that is it, guys. We have gotten to the end of this story. The greatest danger in life is not always evil itself. Sometimes it is fear, ignorance, pain, and the lies we choose to believe when we are hurting. Gabriel allowed tragedy to blind him so deeply that he turned against the very people who loved him most. Instead of healing from his pain, he searched for someone to blame, and the easiest target became an innocent child. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe, like, share, and leave a comment on your opinion. Till next time, bye-bye. I love you.